Hi.
Hi.
Happy Friday.
Yeah, likewise. Happy Friday.
Thank you. Thank you. You didn't read my text, did you?
Not all the way through. No, I read the top and the bottom. I told you though in my response I wasn't going to read the questions.
Yeah, but it wasn't the questions. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't send you any questions that I had for you ahead of time. No. Well,
Okay.
so this will be interesting. It was that's good. How are you?
Wow, just such profound shifts and movement this week, and growth, like really interior growth. Speaking of, like, really, just as you nailed it last weekend, you're like, wow, sis, you're really moving through something. I have commanded so much up leveling for myself in these times, and it also seems to be hitting some astrological points that help with karmic shifts, karmic releases. So with all the work that I do day in and day out, all the clearings and activations, this full moon's eclipse, it was something. So I'm doing great. Thanks.
I missed
How
the
are you?
eclipse.
A lot of people did. The people that I
Yeah.
said something about it too, they're like, "Oh, thanks for letting me know. I didn't even know that was going on."
Yeah, no, I didn't. I didn't. And I mean, I saw the full moon the night before, and that was plenty for me. And I didn't know it was coming. But then I got on a call the next morning, and one of my colleagues said, "Did you see the eclipse?" I said, "No."
It was like 3
Yeah,
a.m. to like 6
gummit.
a.m.
It was
You
what?
may have, it was like 3 a.m. to 6 a.m., so most of us were sleeping, but you get
Hmm.
up quite early, so you could have caught the end of it. It peaked like around, I think it was like, the peak was between 3 and 4 a.m. I'm not sure on that.
Yeah. No, I do not get up at 3 or 4 a.m. I do get up early, but not quite that early. I was but I don't know, a funny thing.
Funny thing. Let's
I was
hear it.
just I well so last Sunday I was with my meditation group. We were talking about centering, like what it means to be centered. As a yogi, what that means to be centered. Um, and so we talked about that a little bit, and then we did a meditation surrounding that with that as the intention. And then today I was just out. I went to the market today. I'm making dinner tonight for everybody, and I went to the market in the middle of the day on a Friday, and I was listening to a podcast on the way there. I have a podcast that's kind of running. That's just wonderful. And so I listen to my podcast. I get to the market. I grab my phone. I don't usually take my phone into the store, um, but uh,
Didn't know
but
that.
yeah, but the girls were out, and I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss a call on this particular Friday. So I had it with me. I get back in the car after I do my marketing, and I start the car, and I start moving. And just after I just kind of pulled out of the parking spot, my stereo just blasts right in front, like so crazy loud with this. And I don't know what radio station it was, but it was just an electric guitar, and it grabbed me so hard.
Excellent.
And, and then what happened was I I yelled at my radio so loud,
Wow,
like
check you out.
with every expletive you can imagine. It was like, I don't know if so. You being the girl of the four of us, the three brothers and the one girl, you may have likely never been in Alan's hockey locker room, because that's a guy's hockey locker room, right? I've been in there. I remember being in there when I was much younger, when we were still living at home, and I got to go in there. And I remember as a boy just being blown away by the number of f bombs that were dropped in a
Hold on,
high.
this is Florida or Boston? Because Alan's made some distinctions.
No, this was Florida.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was. Wait a minute. No, it couldn't have. I don't know. Doesn't matter. Point is, I mean, I just like a hockey. There's nothing like a hockey locker room, especially with a bunch of guys from Massachusetts. Whether it was Boston or Florida, I don't know. But the number of f-bombs in there is like every other word, just like that. And that's basically what my car sounded like for about
Cool.
10 seconds earlier this afternoon. Because what happens is I'm listening to my podcast, and for whatever reason, the connection between my phone and my stereo is I have to max the volume out in my car on my car stereo in order to get the podcast to be a reasonable level that I can hear it while I'm driving. But as soon as it disconnects from the Bluetooth,
Yeah.
if I forget to turn off the stereo when I get out of the car, when I get back in the car, the radio turns on before the Bluetooth reconnects, and I am blasted at full volume with whatever this was. And so I lost it. Now, so as a yogi, what does that mean to lose it? And so what it means to lose it, so that's what it feels like to lose your center, right? So that's what I did. Like I lost my center there for a moment. And right after I got done shouting at my radio, I smiled. I was like, oh, that's what that feels like. All right. I just had it out with my car stereo this afternoon. Um, so that
Dude,
was
do you
pretty
think
cool.
that it's really about losing your center? Because I mean,
Totally.
part of the
It is
yoga
totally. Yes, I do. But go ahead.
part
Continue.
of the yogic path is to have compassion for
Uh-huh.
oneself, right?
Right?
And so on this planet right now, it's intense living. All of the stuff that's being tested out, the new AI stuff. I know Bluetooth isn't new. The geopolitical stuff that's happening, the change in the vibrational backdrop we're living in, our thoughts creating more quickly, us being more telepathic, us being more opened and awakened, so we're sensing more of what's around us, is just so much. So I feel like that God blessed F-bomb is a really good servant.
Yeah,
I
totally.
don't know that it's losing your center, man, if you
It
sit
is
there with a
though.
bunch of F-bombs.
I disagree. It is absolutely. It absolutely is. But I'm totally with you because that the compassion you mentioned, that was that smile right afterwards.
Yeah.
Like, the idea that you can be in the backdrop you just described, like completely what I mean, 100% equanimity all the time. It's not
Not in these days.
not
No.
there yet,
We're not in caves, but I mean,
Yeah.
that's the thing that I used to say a lot, and I say less nowadays. I used to say it more when I came back from India and Asia in general, when I moved back to the States, that these tools were meant for people in ashrams or caves, right? But we are taking this in Humanity Spiritual Awakening times, 2012 to 2032, we are taking these concepts and we're in our daily lives. So all of my work always, as you know, has been about like applying it to the material life. I don't care. Like, somebody wants a past life reading about like, and so many people are like, I was Cleopatra in another lifetime. I was like, Hercules in another lifetime. Like they want the big egoic stroking things. But beyond just that comedic gig with past life readings, like the people that are seeking information and then they don't apply it to, okay, so great, if you were Cleopatra in another lifetime, how does that help free you up to grow more in your body, in your life, with your daily routine and what you're creating and choosing and contributing to the world? So it's another way of saying, like, all of this information, it's all great, and people are taking in so much of it because so much content is pumped out. I recently heard a stat of the amount, we've talked about this, I think, the sheer volume of content that gets put onto the internet on a daily basis is in the billions. I could be misquoting, it might be in the millions. So all of this information, great, but what are you doing to use it in the daily life? And so I'm not even sure that there wasn't a yogi who swore in a cave before because they couldn't get their fires started. I mean, so I feel like it's maybe this is something I got from living in Asia, where it's not like so ideal, these concepts, because like I will never forget one of the first times I was in Bangkok, making my way eventually to Koh Samui, where I always would go, the island in the Gulf of Thailand, during my Chinese New Year break. The first time I saw a monk, we were approaching, I think, whatever, he was smoking a cigarette and holding a cell phone, and I was aghast. I was like, oh my God. But then the reality hit me of like, they have a choice as men, and I'm not sure if it applies to women too. When they graduate, they either go into 2 years of being a monk or 2 years of military service. So then take me back to my daily life in Taiwan. I'm going to the market in the morning. I'm on my scooter. I'm getting bags of goodies and fresh veggies, etc. And there's monks driving away on their scooters with their bags of fresh veggies and stuff. So like all of the massive Buddha statues that exist in Asia that are overwhelmingly ginormous. And then in Taiwan in particular, there are Guanyin statues that are ginormous everywhere, filling up my gas tank for my scooter. Right behind that is a monastery that I used to go running behind on Saturdays, and a huge, like, I don't know how many stories high Guanyin statue. So I'm filling up the gas in my scooter, and I'm looking at a 7-story high Guanyin statue. So what I'm getting at is these concepts aren't, humans are applying them, and we're applying them on a really interesting planet right now.
True. So when's the last time you lost it? Or not the last time, just a time.
Okay, so there's a special edition here that I need to offer. And it's not like a classic record special edition. It's A edition, ADD. When I was implementing, now you'll appreciate this with what you do with technology in your daily job. Mm-hmm. When I was in Taiwan and I was a department chair and a teacher and I needed certain technology, I would go to the admin downstairs and I would ask them, for third period, I need such and such technology. And they would nod and say, yeah, okay. And so I would be in the teacher's office, I'd do whatever I'm doing, and then I'd go to my classroom, and the technology wouldn't be there. And I'd be like, okay, why not? And what I came to learn was, the agreeable to your face yes, to keep the harmony doesn't mean yes. So dealing with those kinds of things as an expat for 10 years where I can't get my way and where I'm dealing with customer service that is absolutely nothing like what American customer service used to be, I had to learn to dial down the American in me. And so I've learned I had a surfboard. And did you know that I had a surfboard when I lived in Taiwan?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what?
That sounds familiar. Yeah.
I had to leave it there at this hut that all the surfboards were left at for the surf. And I really wanted to learn windsurfing. I'm still going to do that because that was coming in as I was leaving Taiwan. God, I want to do that. The way they catch air.
Oh,
anyway, yeah. So what I'm talking about though is this mentality I have. It's really, you add in what I just explained on top of the meditator and the yogi, and I just am so not reactive.
Ever.
I'm trying to find a time. I use the F-bomb. People love that I use the F-bomb. My clients are like, yeah! Here and there, when I'm running.
I can think of a gajillion examples.
When I've lost it
No, myself. No, I can.
All right, hold on. I did lose it in a way. If you think about the last time I came up to Saratoga Springs on the night before, my first night there, on the night before, I had a huge interview the next morning that I had to be ready for in front of a really big audience. Mm-hmm. And I had the thing collapse that locked me out of the house, and I had to call you at midnight. That led me to do cardio on the porch and up and down the stairs on the porch. But before I got your God bless it, youngest, to go into your bedroom, and I knew that you were on your way to help me in. I was walking the neighborhood looking who I could wake up. I was freaking out. I wasn't yelling. There weren't. I probably did an F bomb, and God knows I must have done an F bomb. But I was calm. I was relatively. I was problem solving.
So there's this thing about I mean it's completely I mean so being centered, feeling centered, being calm, feeling calm is completely different from offering the presentation that one is calm and centered, right? I mean, because you can have
Oh
you ever been
yeah.
like, like I don't know. It's funny because one of the things I jotted down, like maybe Allison and I could chat about this thing, because I was thinking about sincerity, what it means to be sincere. Just as kind of, I mean, I was, excuse me, listening to something about it in particular, but it's funny that you mentioned um, something along those lines about the folks in Taiwan when they said yes to maintain the harmony, but they didn't actually follow through on what they had said yes to,
Yeah, saving face.
right? So that's insincere, right? Or just I don't know
In
if
Western
sincerity.
standards
Okay,
or
well,
American
fine, but
standards.
you're still human to human, right? I don't know if that's sincerity or integrity, like doing what you say you're going to do, that sort of thing. But um, it's complete. Like the thing about above, I mean, because you can read all kinds of teachings and such about about calmness and centeredness and the inner strength that we find in centeredness and the profound nature of calm. We were talking about calmness as one of the eight aspects of God last time, you
Yeah.
know, but none of that trumps being authentic and being who you are. I mean, we don't get anywhere by pretending that I'm calm when I'm not. Actually applying practices and cultivating calmness and applying practices and practicing being centered. Like I was grateful when that happened today when my car stereo yelled at me. I
Mhm.
wasn't grateful in the moment because in the moment I was cussing out my stereo, but I was grateful afterwards, and I did also yell at my car in general, and then I felt bad because my car is so good to me.
It is really good too.
You know,
It is. I
um,
was thinking
but
that.
but every but I mean we've talked before about just I think I've said to you before just like I mean I'm grateful when I'm wrong, right? I'm grateful when I'm wrong because that takes a chip out of my ego, and so I'm grateful when I lose it because just when you think I don't know, it's like a
You're
I don't want
grateful
to
when you lose it.
like the phrase reality check comes up, but that doesn't really hit it. It's just like a oh
Yeah.
yeah, still
That's what
working
I
on
was
this.
saying.
Still
Yeah.
working, still working on this. Just like the idea, and this is where like, and circling all the way back to compassion. Like I immediately I have compassion. I had compassion for myself a moment later, and the same way I have compassion for the version of myself years ago who raised my voice at my daughters. Oh my gosh, how much time I had to spend letting go. I mean, parental guilt is a real thing. Letting go of those times when I just lost it. I lost my center, and that was a good number of years ago now. I had less practice at that time, so I mean I can think about those things, and I can think about you know everything that was in my life at that time, happening in my life at that time, and it's just an opportunity to feel compassion. It's like are these versions of ourselves, right? So I don't know. I'm just I'm not looking forward to the next time I lose it. And thankfully, like that, I lost it on my car stereo. And I was in the moment, I was completely startled, like a jump scare in a movie sort of thing. So when they say like I was not myself, I was not myself.
So
You
you
know?
there was a reaction.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's what. Well, I mean, so what does it mean to be? Um,
But that's what part of what I'm saying, David, though, is the central nervous system. There's so much talk out here in the industry about like calming the central nervous system. And now people are talking more about the vagus nerve. I mean, like there's so much talk about the central nervous system because of what we're saying, right? Because living on planet Earth is so different now, but also because the awareness is raised of pay attention. Like instead of it just being about achieving and striving and doing and forcing and making happen, now it's about, because the feminine is getting rebalanced with the masculine, look at the inner state of you. And that, your inner state, creates your outer reality. So making that inversion instead of the reaction to something external to us, I think part of the reason why you may have reacted, though, is because it was such a jolt to your central nervous system. And we have so much input that's already on the planet jolting us in a way. If we're open, like, if you think of a sensitive baby who's sitting there sleeping and you come in and you yell at it, that's going to jar it. I don't mean to use that as an example after you
No,
just talked about what you
it's a
just
good,
talked about.
good example.
Because
No,
God
no,
knows you never did that.
it's a good example.
But it's kind of like in this spiritual awakening time, humanity's greatest evolutionary leap, 2012 to 2032, nicknamed humanity's spiritual awakening time. Like I remember around 2015, people were starting to have more skin reactions. And I remember tuning in with my intuition and understanding that it was because people were awakening more. Right. And so the skin was awakening more. They're having more skin sensitivities. This is also when, some of the digestive system issues, not just for you, but for like a lot of people, the sensitivity to what they were putting in their body, they had to pay more attention to because everything was awakening. So if you take that metaphor to or analogy to the infant that you go in and yell at, it's kind of in part what I understand about why we're paying more attention to our central nervous systems. So today, when you had that happen, it was like, it's just another jolt to your central nervous system.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll repeat myself. I mean, I'm not looking forward to, another jolt. That has happened to me. I think another part of it was that has happened to me in that car before, but it's been a while. So part of the reaction was kind of like the remembering that this is not the first time this has happened. And actually, in this moment, if I
You got
think
yourself
about it,
juiced up even
I
more.
did. If I think about it a little bit more in this moment, part of that, there's something here. There's something here because so often when we are reactive, now, okay, so setting aside the fact that it was a jolt to my central nervous system, I was the sleeping baby and that got jarred awake. Okay. But that aside, when we think about when we do react, when we do get like in an interaction with a human, another human, a defensive, because as I think about this now, I have learned to turn the power off on my stereo when I get out of the car if I'm taking my phone with me if I'd been listening to it. But I forgot. So, to what extent was the fact that I could have controlled this had I been mindful enough when I was going into the market to remember to turn my stereo off? So, what I'm getting at is I was reactive. Like, had I had had I had no control over that situation, it was just like something that completely came at me, would I have reacted the way that I did? Or is the fact that to some extent, at some point in my consciousness, I knew that this was actually my fault? Or no, not my fault. I don't want to use that. It was actually, I had responsibility in it because had I remembered to do that, then that would have happened. So where I'm going with that is like just how you can tie that into, um, I don't know. I can't think of a specific example right now, but I can remember reflecting on past interactions when I was reactive. Um, that an aspect of that reactivity was the fact that I knew that that person had a point.
Yeah. Yeah, so a trigger gets pushed.
Yeah. Yeah.
David, can I ask you on a little bit of a side note here? Something?
Of course.
Okay. So do you consider an example I have within my day so far is I just got a text from somebody who I love collaborating with. And people have commented before on, we've done interviews together, and there's been like just such an elevated energy. We really enjoy communicating. It's somebody
Yeah.
who has a big summit, and I go on it, and we have great, enlightening conversations. And so there's a really good connection. And so I've been waiting to hear from him and about something that's on my schedule that I have to get the task over to my team. And so he texted, and I found myself really excited. Is that a reaction?
Is that a reaction? No, I think what interesting because I guess because what I was about to say was I think a reaction is when you're triggered. Like when we react, we're coming from. I mean, you can kind of think of yourself, of like a version of yourself as a smaller version of yourself that's based in your ego, and a higher version of self that we're always trying to uplift ourselves toward, to spend more time in the super conscious and always be operating from that place. And so when I react, that's triggering something way down in my nervous system, right? So if I got a similar, had something similar happen today. I don't know if this will be a helpful answer, but I had an email come through that was very unexpected and very good. Something I was unexpected, and just a wonderful validation and opportunity. And
Fantastic.
I just found myself in the moment, like I was on the verge of tears. I mean, I could feel them welling up in my eyes, and I was just
Wow, I want to hear about this.
I said, wow, this is very exciting, and I felt this upliftment. So I feel like if there's something that is energizing in that way, that draws that uplifted feeling, and that's a higher level of consciousness. That's not reactivity. That's not a reaction. I feel like, so I guess what I'm getting at is, to me, the definition of a reaction is whether it's a reaction or a response. It's based on what part of your consciousness it's coming from. I don't
Okay.
know. Yeah.
So when we look at the power versus force calibration that David Hawkins did about anything below 400, it's guilt, there's fear, that,
Mm.
right? And then when you go above it, one of the things I know is about this that I quote all the time because it surprised me and I love it, is that one of the highest states of consciousness is joyous creation.
Mm. Yeah. Makes
So,
perfect sense.
okay, so building on that further, we're talking about inputs. Like the whole idea of meditating is to go inward so that your five physical senses aren't busy.
Mm. True.
So if we talk about each of our examples, yours, either of the two that you've given today, or my example, all of that is catalyzed by an output, pardon me, by an input from the outside world.
Yeah. Yeah.
So am I just like getting way too into this reaction definition? I hear what you said, and I like that, and that's why I added in joyous creation as one of the highest states of consciousness. But I find it interesting. Like one of the things that just occurred to me is when you were in your car and you started f-bombing the hell out of it, like you were in a state that was reacting, as you've already explained, because it was part of it was self-blame out of that you had forgotten.
Could have been. It could have been part of it. Yeah. But it was knee jerk. There was nothing, there was no, even if it was momentary, there was no,
That's a good distinction, knee
yeah,
jerk.
there was no taking in of, I don't know. It's funny you mentioned, like, they make this might be, I'd be the last thing that we mention here. But, fun to talk about,
Heads up.
the, like the whole, because you brought up meditation and and ultimately pulling back from the senses, but
The outside
how do
world.
you know that your meditation practice, I mean, the whole, a big part of practicing meditation is so that life can be better.
Yep.
Life can be more enjoyable. Life can be more effective and successful, and we can and we can be a beneficent presence on this planet and be here for each other and for others as and get out of the the me mine sort of place. So the
Beautifully said.
yeah, right. So the idea of so if I can take that, I mean, a big part of what we're doing is if I can take that meditative state and go through life in that way, and my life gets better that way. That's the whole idea.
Is
So,
that what, have you noticed how erroneously people use mindfulness?
well,
It's really thrown around.
there are a lot of words. Yeah.
But the term mindfulness really gets thrown around. So what you just described, coming up off the mat and using the musculature, you sat there battling with hearing all the thoughts and coming back to something else to focus on, whether it's a mantra or the breath, hearing all the thoughts, getting tuned into, my God, is my mind busy, right? Realizing that, and then taking the gains you've made in your hardwiring, in your physiology, and in your awareness into off the mat and into your daily life. Yeah? Is that what we would call mindfulness? Because I would love to have what would you call mindfulness? I would love to have a definition that is actually accurate from the yogic teachings. Because I think people are saying like peaceful, aware. They're using it like all these different ways to mean all these different things.
I think the easiest way to think about that, and we'll have to talk about this more next time, uh is being aware of what you're doing when you're doing it.
Yeah, because I think you said if I had been more mindful, I would have turned my volume off.
Yeah, more present.
Mindful.
Hmm.
I mean, we
Yeah,
could get,
it's well, right. I don't. It's not a great word for what it actually means.
uh-huh. It's the exact opposite, actually.
There's only one L, but now we're getting really into the weeds.
Yeah, we are getting into the weeds.
All right, I got to scoot.
Okay.
I love you.
I love you back, David Matthew.
All right, big sister. Bye.